It was a textbook contempt of cop arrest. The emotionally fragile Blue Lion snowflake Johnny Cagle took extreme action against a man who was filming him. It's something police officers would usually get away with, but this time there was an internal affairs investigation. I requested the results of the investigation from the Lake Jackson, Texas Police Department. Later in this video, I'll show you the findings and what Police Chief Paul Thibodeau had to say about the incident. But first, let's talk about training. The police just need more training. That's a line I hear all day, every day. I see it in the video comments. I hear it from police apologists. It's also what the local newspaper, The Facts, yes, they call themselves The Facts, said when they ran an editorial with the headline, LJ Incident Shows Need for More Training. Yvonne Mintz, the publisher of The Facts, wrote, department officials are also re-examining training procedures. The suspended officer's discipline includes remedial training in areas of law related to Reyes' actions and ultimate arrest. End quote. But is the police misconduct truly a problem caused by insufficient training? Or is the real problem police culture and attitudes? If it's a training problem, you and I would expect Officer Cagle's training record to be thin. So let's take a look.
He's taking pictures of other people's vehicles and license plates, which is against the law. But taking license plate pictures of license plates, you are not allowed to do.
This is not your accident scene. This is all public property, okay?
You're coming up here taking photos of pictures?
Yeah.
The incident took place on Friday, March 4th. Just 3 days prior, Cagle received training credit for the course News Media and the Police. In February, he received training in Freedom of Speech Enforcement and Ethics in Law Enforcement. In January, he completed Civilian Interaction Training, a required course that covers filming the police. He also attended Civilian Interaction Training in 2019. That's a significant amount of First Amendment related training. I have a hard time believing the mistake of law narrative being pushed by the city administration and local media. But even if Cagle honestly thought filming was illegal, surely he realized it as a non-violent activity that was not a safety threat. There was no reason to escalate the situation.
You wanted to come here and intimidate me?
Sir,
let me tell you something right now.
No, sir, let me
this is not your accident scene. This is all public property, okay?
You're coming up here taking photos of pictures?
Yeah. First of all, lower your voice now.
Sir, I'm talking the same way.
No. You came here with a bad energy.
No, I asked what you were doing.
You're going to lower your voice now when you talk to me.
You sat here and said I can be wherever I want.
Anywhere I want, yes. Then back away, because if I had come to you this close, you'd have arrested my ass.
You're already on our scene, which is interfering in my investigation.
I'm not interfering with any of your shit.
You need to put your finger out of my face.
You need to back up for me then.
I don't need to back up. This is my scene. This is his scene.
No, fuck you and your scene, man. I'm standing right here.
You need to leave now.
I'm not leaving anywhere.
Leave.
I'm not leaving anywhere.
You need to
go. I'm not leaving anywhere. I'm not.
Yes, Cagle definitely increased the intensity of the interaction. Yet on Monday, 4 days before the incident, he received 4 hours of training credit for verbal intervention and de-escalation. In February, he received another 4 hours of training credit for de-escalation of force. He also completed the course Demonstration and Crowd Management. Cagle's record demonstrates that not only did he receive a significant amount of First Amendment and de-escalation training, but that he received the training on the topics literally the same week as the viral incident. I assert that no other Lake Jackson officer has received as much relevant training as Cagle documents on his state police officer record. However, many of the Lake Jackson police officers do not give us trouble for filming their official activities. For example, we filmed Sergeant Cosme on numerous interesting scenes, but his record doesn't document any specific First Amendment training other than the required civilian interaction course.
So it's perfectly legal. I mean, like, if they have anything against it, there's something we can do to stop them. And typically we don't care because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not working. Okay. Yeah, it's just one of those things, okay? So because we're in a public place, that's perfectly legal, okay? All right, you have a good day, all right, man?
It's not a training problem. It's about the attitudes of the police officers. Even if they aren't aware of the latest case law about filming, if officers respect their constitutional responsibilities and accept that the public have a right to know what cops do, then there won't be a problem. It doesn't have to be a constant tug of war with each side butting heads at the line of qualified immunity. Good cops who respect the public don't protest being filmed, even if they could lawfully prohibit the activity. Most of the Lake Jackson police officers understand the idea of filming the police, but they don't study each nuance about what the public can do and what the police can prohibit. Police should adopt a pro-transparency mindset instead of using every possible tactic to block video recording.
Mendoza, your accident scene. You're taking pictures of other people's vehicles and license plates, which is against the law. What are you doing right now?
Taking photography.
Okay. Not here. Not right now, okay?
Okay, what are you gonna do if I don't stop?
Okay. Look, all I'm asking, you can do what you need to do is go over there. You need to leave.
I'm not leaving.
Mendoza?
Sir,
I'm not leaving.
just
I'm not leaving.
okay, all we're asking.
You're not gonna tell me that you're not gonna intimidate me out of here.
I don't understand what the purpose is.
What is your purpose of you being here right now?
Okay, so
You
what
have an
is
accident scene, go deal with it.
Okay, this accident is said and done. These records are now
Then
making
walk away. You're dismissed. I don't need you here.
Okay, so this accident is over. Why are
Then
you
get
still
the
here?
fuck out of here. I don't need you here. You're trying to intimidate me? 2 officers with guns?
The motorcycle officer, Oscar Mendoza, was the senior officer on this scene, even though he is younger than Cagle and has been a police officer for only 3 years. Cagle tried to get Mendoza to unlawfully eject Reyes from the area. One of Cagle's former co-workers told me that it was not the first time Cagle utilized that tactic to get his way while attempting to avoid liability. Mendoza tried to get Reyes to go a short distance away to defuse the situation, but he stopped short of pulling Cagle away from the unnecessary conflict. Since Lake Jackson is concealing the dash cameras and body camera video, I do not know what involvement Mendoza had in the violent takedown, arrest, and aftermath. Chief Thibodeau sustained the policy violation of unsatisfactory performance by a sworn officer. Mendoza was sanctioned with a 3-day unpaid suspension, remedial training in the subject matter of First Amendment law and de-escalation, and a 12-week performance improvement plan. The police chief said, as with all discipline, accountability is an important component, but the ultimate goal is improvement. I couldn't agree more, but I think the training requirement misses the mark. The seniority and rank structure of American policing creates a political dynamic that prevents younger officers from speaking up, even if they are more intelligent and motivated. Some of the smartest police officers leave policing to pursue other professions. The officers that stay behind become supervisors and administrators. Police culture needs major reform. There needs to be a culture of accountability instead of worshiping the blue line and being a punisher. All officers should be able to and expected to stand up to officers who are out of line, even if it is their boss. Crew resource management is aviation training that encourages pilots to question the captain. The training covers communication, decision-making, and teamwork to promote safety. Similar training is being introduced in the fire service. The same should be implemented in policing. As more officers arrive on scene, situations usually escalate as the police gang up on the victim. That's not how it should be. The rest of the IA letter could be confused with a love note. Chief claimed, It is an intense and difficult job where decisions are made in extreme and stressful situations, unquote. However, there was nothing about a man filming that was extreme, intense, or difficult. Nevertheless, while it is convenient for the police administration to blame officer training, it is disingenuous to sanction the officer for that. In his most recent performance review in August, Mendoza wrote, "Unable to attend training courses needed to keep TCO license. This department gave patrol officers access to Police One Academy, which is okay, but I prefer to take in-person classes, and that is when I get denied at times. And now I'm having to rush myself in ensuring I acquire my TCO hours so my peace officer license won't get suspended. Example, I submitted a training request form so I could attend ICC crime scene, 40 hours, and was denied due to being short-staffed. ICC crime scene was a mandatory class I needed to take to ensure I was caught up on my hours due to this year being the last year in the training cycle." Mendoza also cited, "Attend more training courses to better my knowledge," as an area he could improve to increase job effectiveness. I reached out to the police administration numerous times while working on this story, including specific questions about training. They refused to interview or comment. But the reality is that conflicts over filming the police is not a training problem. It's a cultural and attitude problem. The police don't respect the tax-paying public. The good news, though, is that there is a very easy fix, and it can be immediately corrected. The police chief should attend each roll call and implement a zero-tolerance policy for misconduct while on camera. That's all it takes. Just look to the immediate reform in Leon Valley with a no-nonsense city manager, or the camera mandate of the previous Fort Bend County Sheriff. When officers know that they will lose their jobs if they play Tyrant games, they immediately behave. Perhaps people blame training because it is easier to stomach than acknowledging that police heroes have personality and ego problems that are a severe threat to public safety. But we can't make real progress by playing politics. We must identify the root of the problem and correct it, even if that is difficult or upsets people. Now for Officer Cagle's IA findings. The chief told me that he and I were not on opposite sides of this issue, and based on his write-up on Cagle, I think there is indeed much agreement. My issue, however, is the double standard for police officers when they commit crimes, in this case, a violent crime. Rather than being arrested like the rest of us would have been, Cagle so far faced only internal investigation related to policy violations. There was sufficient probable cause for his arrest. When officers realize that they too are subject to the penal codes, they will start thinking twice before hurting people. This double standard is an ongoing problem in Brazoria County. I was outraged that the police administration gave Cagle an opportunity to resign before they fired him. As Joe Savaggio learned, fired police tyrants have a difficult time finding a department to sponsor their commission. Although allowing an employee to resign reduces liability to the city from possible employment disputes, the trade-off does not justify the damage done to public safety and the integrity of the police profession. Bad cops should be fired. End of story. But that's not the end of this video. Here's the letter. After review of the information contained in the internal affairs of which you were notified, I am sustaining the policy violation of unsatisfactory performance by a sworn officer. While trying to address a concern from one of the persons involved in the traffic accident about someone recording, the citizen you approached was advised, and you took extreme action based on the erroneous belief that taking images of a license plate in public was against the law. The citizen, completely within the law and not suspect of any criminal activity, was not required to show identification. With your training and vast experience, These 2 points of law should have been quite evident to you. Being that you took action to control the citizen under the erroneous point of law, I must also sustain the policy violation of use of force under the portion of the policy which states, not more force in any situation that is reasonably necessary under the circumstances. If effecting a lawful arrest, the force used in the incident was only that necessary to overcome resistance. But in this case, the force used was unnecessary, and that the arrest was unnecessary. As you may recall, this is similar to what I said when I broke the story earlier this month. The use of force continuum prescribes how police officers should interact with a subject, as we are called. This man had every right to be present within the traditional public forum and document the police activity. Thus, the police had no authority to compel him to leave. However, in the event that he was committing a crime, the next step would have been to arrest the citizen journalist. The citizen journalist did not approach the police. He did not make any physical contact and did not show any indication that he might flee or become violent. The police never verbalized that he was under arrest or commanded him to present his hands for restraint. Instead, they immediately used hard physical control by violently taking him down to the ground without any warning. This was an obvious use of excessive force. The Lake Jackson use of force policy outlines a similar use of force continuum. The first step is officer presence. Step 2 is verbal direction. Dialogue used by an officer can serve to diffuse potentially violent confrontations. It is important to observe that this level concerns what an officer says and how he says it. The factors involved in this level include the officer's language, tone of voice, and confidence and/or posture and body language. This isn't just me saying these things. This is the official police policy. The force used by an officer shall only be that which is necessary to overcome the resistance being offered by an offender and to effect lawful objectives. It is the policy of this department that officers shall use only that amount and duration of force which is reasonable and necessary given the facts and circumstances perceived by the officer at the time of the event to effectively bring an incident under control. Officers must have an understanding of and a true appreciation for the limitations on their authority. Factors considered are minimally the severity of the crime at issue, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of law enforcement officers or others, and whether the suspect is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. Only the amount of force reasonably necessary to effect an arrest or control a person shall be used. Force shall not be used punitively, and officers will always discontinue use of force when the offender stops resisting. The termination letter concluded, as a summary of both violations which are dependent of one another, I feel continued employment with the Lake Jackson Police Department is untenable. This decision is not made in haste, as your contributions in the short time at our department are greatly appreciated, as is the 10 years of service prior. Realizing we all make errors and our preference being to incorporate progressive discipline to retain good people, there are times when the relationship is so damaged that separation is best for the department. The welfare of the Lake Jackson Police Department and our ability to serve the citizens of Lake Jackson is paramount to any other consideration. I previously reported that Reyes was transported by EMS to the hospital. That was not accurate. The use of force policy states, medical assistance shall be obtained as soon as is practicable for subjects who have sustained injury, expressed any complaint of injury, been rendered unconscious, or the officer suspects has been injured. In the event the subject is injured, officers have a duty and obligation to provide medical treatment while in our custody. Fire department personnel on scene immediately requested EMS, and it was dispatched as an assault against Reyes.
I'm going to request for an ambulance for a scrape on the head. They're going to be at 332 Oyster Creek Drive by the Starbucks entrance on the theater. be for an assault. Subject has a scrape on the back of their head. And possibly one of our officers has an injury to his forehead. Time zone 1326.
In addition to the obvious visible bleeding and abrasions, there is also a risk of cranial hemorrhage, which is a life-threatening condition. Unfortunately, the minimally trained police were somehow able to overrule the fire personnel and violate policy. Instead of immediately providing adequate emergency medical treatment to Reyes, the police patrol boys stuffed him into a patrol car and began to transport him to the city jail. Only later did they take him to the emergency room. This is probably one of the most outrageous abuses of the entire incident. The police commonly escalate situations to entrap victims. Most of the time they get away with the tactic. Even though there is no primary offense, they charge people with add-on charges like resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer. As the rest of the police department arrived on scene, that's the game they played. They brought Cagle to the hospital via ambulance, allowing him to play the victim, and they were going to set up Reyes to take the fall. They might have gotten away with it, too, if it hadn't been for the video and other witnesses. Finally, I'd like to point out the hypocrisy in the error of law excuse. April Vaughn was the woman who complained about Reyes filming, but she, too, was video recording. Do as Karen says, not as Karen does. I think she recorded the entire confrontation, but being a faithful police supporter, she refuses to share the truth with everyone. Even the dumbest officer cannot honestly think that it is alright for one person to film, but somehow illegal for a different person to film. Few have been as involved as me at working to reform the Lake Jackson Police Department. I do this work because I care about people and I want to restore liberty, justice, and equality to our communities. There are so many posers and opportunists out there. Please scrutinize what you hear in the media, including the people who are saying it. Even me. My involvement in Lake Jackson predates my YouTube channel. In fact, it is what I found in Lake Jackson that motivated me to focus on the topic of policing. Since December, I've been mostly homebound, struggling with an incredibly painful foot injury. It was made even worse by the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office. When I brought it to their attention, they responded with smart-ass remarks like, "You did it to yourself." It's hard to imagine nastier people than the police. Tomorrow, the tomorrow at the time I shot this video, I will finally have surgery to correct multiple foot injuries. I'm not sure how long I will be out, but I hope to resume coverage of Leon Valley prior to the election. Since I won't be able to film the police for a while, I hope viewers will start filming the police when you see them. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment.